we definitely hope to bring it back, and we'll, keep iterating on it as we go. So, maybe new content, maybe new enemy types. Just, yeah, it really depends on how the mode is received. I mean, we hope you guys love it. So, yeah.
Awesome.
Who's Oberon? Is that one of the new dudes?
That's one of the new guys.
Okay.
Nice.
And Friendstep?
Another new guy.
Okay.
Yeah, we got 2 new guys on playtest that are playing the mode with us.
Yeah, that makes sense. That explains the losing.
Except for that. So there was a question a bit earlier about, is it possible to defeat with any comp? So I can't say that unequivocally. I am fairly confident it is. One of the missions that we actually challenge you to, though, is as a pre-made, beat the mode without every role at least once. So we'll say like, hey, beat the mode without an AD carry on your team, beat the mode without a support or poppy on your team, and then beat the mode without a mage on your team. So those are sort of where we challenge you to stress the limits of like, what can you possibly, like, hey, like, I'm relying on Soraka a lot. How do I beat the mode now that I don't have Soraka,
Yeah, I was watching them do an earlier playthrough of this with, I think it was with no healer, and it looked rough.
Yeah.
I think it was a no utility run entirely.
No utility run is real tough. We've had some luck doing stuff like, Lux maxing her shield. Maybe someone picks up redemption so you can like kind of get by.
Yeah.
But not having access to poppy or any heals is, it's punishing.
Will this game mode be on for the entire month or just the patch?
So it's going to be straddling a patch, so it'll actually be on for assuming everything goes well, it'll be on for some of 7.17 and then some of 7.18, not the days, the patches.
Right.
So not a full month, but it'll definitely be on for a fairly large part of it. I don't think we've announced like the exact start and end date yet, but that should be coming fairly soon. But at least it will be for multiple weeks. Very similar to normal RGM stuff.
When will PBE signups be open?
I don't know. I'm
Oh.
sorry. Yeah. Sorry, Follager. Yeah, we're not great guys to ask about PBE signups. I just don't know. I'm really sorry.
Ninja Boomerang is still waiting for Star Guardian Urgot. So, we gotta get on that.
I'll defer to you. I mean, as the creator of the...
Just letting you know.
Yeah, sounds good. Except for that.
So we've actually done a decent number of game modes in the last couple of months, right?
Yeah.
What informs kind of what we think is cool?
Sure.
How do we come up with those?
So a large part of it is just like, taking inspirations from, things we've seen, other games. A large part of it is just a lot of experimentation with like, okay, let's take a League of Legends champion. What can we make him do that's enjoyable, right? So we did some stuff, like Darkstar was an experiment with like, let's take exactly one champion, what's that really fun thing, and how do we pull it out? This was an experiment with like, okay, we have these really fun League of Legends kits, we have like this really fun, team fight gameplay. How do we sort of put that into a PvE mode, which is much more about like, semi-constant like team fighting, quote unquote, and just like how do we channel that? So that's a lot of it.
Awesome.
We've just sort of been experimenting with like, here is a moment, here's an idea in League of Legends that we know is fun because it happens in Summoner's Rift and people love it. How do we sort of highlight those moments in particular in a specific mode? How do we, draw attention to those?
Super cool. Every name is taken 18 wants to know. will
The first 17 were also taken.
I was gonna ask, like, did you try every name is taken 16?
Awesome name. He wants to know, will Riot do sections of story-oriented game modes in the future?
It's definitely possible. So we are experimenting with sort of much shorter, like micro modes kind of thing. Like I'd say that both Blood Moon and Darkstar are good examples of that, where they were like, these like 10, 15 minute game length modes that were very like focused.
Totally.
Star Guardian kind of is that, sort of. But, length is on the longer end depending on how you do, obviously. That said, we haven't really done a lot of exploration yet into like narrative focus modes like a campaign or anything like that telling a story. it's definitely something we've talked about. So maybe in the future, like if it's something players want to see, it's something we can look at. But
Totally.
I can not comment on like right now. We haven't announced anything of the sort, or yeah.
Yeah, I mean the Star Guardian mode, it has like a loose story to it,
Yeah,
where it's
definitely.
it's kind of a vague story, but you're kind of protecting this star park and this
Right.
city from aliens. If we want to do more specific story points like that in future game modes, I think it's something we can definitely explore, and I think it'd be cool.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like that Jigsaw was a bit trolly. I'm not sure.
The Janet Ultimate split.
Oh,
all
yeah,
up.
Janet Ult, sorry.
And everyone's question mark.
I'm not sure that was helping.
I'm helping.
Yep.
Looking at. Sorry, someone had a question here about. Is Ezreal's hair the same as Elemental's Lux Thunderform? Sorry, it was a weird question.
I don't believe
That's
so.
super specific.
I can see
Very
the
specific.
resemblance. They're both quite blonde, but I do not believe they are exactly the same.
And is Ari the announcer?
Oh yes, yeah. So Ari is the announcer for the mode. I believe we're actually going to be turning on a Ari announcer pack when the mode is live for Summoner's Rift. So you'll get to experience her dulcet tones, or whatever term you enjoy. And then for this mode as well, she'll be acting as the announcer for the duration, sort of as she is the team leader. And yeah,
Can you talk a little bit? Someone asked how the map mode orders are generated. We talked loosely about that earlier, but
So basically, it's a fairly loose framework. You're guaranteed to get 2 of the hallway experiences, and you're guaranteed to end on the boss fight. It would be a bit odd if it was like the 3rd thing you fought, and I was like, all right. Except for that, though, it's actually fairly random. We have a large pool of sort of different encounter types, about 20-ish or so, and we'll pull from that more or less at random. There's some weighting stuff we do, but so the general idea is you'll see the same encounter from game to game, but you will not see every encounter every game, and in what order you see them is more or less completely random.
cool. That was a spicy MF ult.
Oh yeah,
I feel like
that was
someone
pretty sweet.
someone knocked some things out of it towards the end. I'm not pointing fingers, but
I feel like that's half the fun. Like, I had one playtest where I was playing with those guys, and about half of it was me picking Poppy and seeing how well I could aim Skarners directly on top of my friends with my ult. So that felt good. I'm not sure they loved it, but
what's the relationship between the new starting group and old group? I don't really have someone from narrative here, but
yeah. So I think so. When this mode goes live, there's actually going to be a big narrative event alongside it, which is going to go pretty far into all that stuff. I don't think like neither one of us is probably the best person to ask, and also that is just diving into stuff that we really want you to see as the event unfolds and sort of in its full glory, I suppose. So over the next couple weeks, though, you should definitely be able to find out about that stuff. For now, I can tell you that in this mode in particular, they fight alongside, and they are both Star Guardians. So you have that.
fair enough. Is there let's say we look at this and for some reason actually playtest is terrible.
Sure.
Right? They've been getting Bs all the time, but everyone does this and gets an S on the first try.
Yeah.
On hard. How would we make this, other than just like tuning up numbers, I guess, how would we make this more difficult in ways and also like more engaging?
Sure. So numbers. Is
I know
gonna
that's a
be-
hard question
yeah,
off the spot.
like, numbers is going to be
Numbers is
the
the
eternal
obvious
go-to,
one.
right? Like, if it turns out that like Vel'Koz is actually tickling you, if you screw up, then that's something we can look at. We've also talked about. So I will say, being honest, we are much more worried about the other direction. We've got the initial PBE numbers on like how well players are doing, and it's not an easy mode. I can promise you that. That said, though, we are talking about for the grading system in particular. It's something we'll look at like. Because we're straddling 2 patches, we have a bit of leeway. Like,
Right.
hey, if we're really far off in the first week, we can do some tuning and try and fix that. In addition to that, if we bring it back in the future and it's too hard or it's too easy, we can, like, one of the easiest ones is sort of messing around with how big the signals are, right? So, like, Rek'Sai right now has a 1.5 second windup, tone that down a bit, make it
Right.
a bit more punishing. Just, like, amount of monsters is always a thing. Just like increasing the punishment for mistakes, so that's like, you know, weakening, healing, stuff like that, are all definitely really good ways to notch up the difficulty without just being like
Numerical.
Kha'Zix one-shots you, right?
Yeah.
Because right now he two-shots you, which is much better. And I will definitely reiterate for the guys in the chat, these are very skilled players who are quite familiar with the mode at this point. I mean, so they maybe don't make it look easy, but make it look quite doable, which is perhaps...
You say that as he like
Continue to
he's-
jinx them.
Yeah.
Arcane chips right into the Vel'Koz.
Well, if he's doing it, imagine what you guys will do on live, right?
Ooh.
Yeah, so
Oh.
this
Whoa.
is...
It's so easy.
That's so easy.
So as you can see, that's how resurrection works. If one of you dies, not naming names, one of your teammates can rescue you and bring you back into the fight, you know. I feel like this is like very clear correlation where we're like, the mode is perhaps a bit too easy, and then like someone
Everyone
just
dies.
dies terribly. Could be the curse.
So you mentioned that all the champions are ranged except for Poppy.
Yes.
What's feedback been on like making Poppy still feel appropriate to the rest of the map?
Yeah. So part of it is definitely going to be like it varies per person, but the big things is we looked at the tools that Poppy has, right? Like what does she have? She has her ult, which lets you fling things far away. Like that's pretty much just good. There's melee enemies, keep them away. And then we also looked at her W, like the sort of like
Right.
dash interrupt, and it was like, okay, how do we make that feel good? So one of the big things is a lot of the enemies are super susceptible to stuns, which Poppy brings a lot of, and they're very, very weak to Poppy's dash block. So like Rek'Sai is constantly tunneling around. If you block that with W, he pops out instantly. He's stunned for a few seconds. So Poppy's like absolutely fantastic for shutting that down. She's pretty good at locking down Kha'Zix, you know, like slam him into a wall. He has pretty predictable movement. Poppy does definitely struggle against Shogath. That is her bane, but you know, we had to make one. But in general, just like she's a really tanky guy in a mode that doesn't have a huge amount of like the classic like tank buster damage types. So
Well.
she just
Vel'Koz and
Vel'Koz and
Kog'Maw.
Kha'Zix, that's fair. Or Kog'Maw, yeah, that's fair. So she's pretty good against Rex. You know, she really shines against Rek'Sai and Kha'Zix as
Right.
like two that she does a great job of. And then she just has a lot of CC, which you can use to interrupt, like reset
Not like this,
Kog'Maw's
my
wind-up.
dude.
Yeah. You know, reset Kog'Maw's wind-up. She can pin Vel'Koz against a wall, lock it in place. One really cute thing that you'll learn is Vel'Koz like attaches to a particular location. So if you knock him a long distance away, he'll actually like take a really long time traveling back. Yeah. So you can do fun stuff with that.
Oh, so it'll head back to the same place.
Yeah, exactly. And then we specifically tuned the boss, so like the boss has her like big dash where she winds up and lunges at you, and that's actually completely interruptible by Poppy's W. So you can actually like freeze the boss briefly and interrupt one of its attacks. That usually
That's
feels
pretty
really
cool.
good when you pull it off. Yeah. Except for that though, it's just like you have a lot of health, you get to run around and save your allies. Generally a good thing.
Is this the first time
Yeah,
victory?
I think they got this. You know, good team comp.
I'm feeling
boss
the
is low.
S.
Boss is low.
But do we burn or do we save our two boys? Or girls?
I'd say burner. I mean, let's be honest. I think that actually got a bit more. Oh, no. She's down. She's down. Yeah, you guys got
Nice.
this. Nice.
I'll try to do it for
Okay,
friendship.
okay, let's
Yeah.
see. Let's see the friendship rating.
That looked clean. That looked clean. This room. S. Very nice. Nicely done,
Excellent.
guys.
Right, but I want to see the S plus
Oh,
now.
yeah. It was an S.
It was an S. It's
It was
good,
an
it's
S.
good, it's
Very
good.
good. So getting an S, so as I demonstrated here, an S rank is actually the highest